Good morning, friends. I am Patty Elhoff, the author of Upcycle with Decoupage. And some of you are aware that we lost our mother-in-law, or I lost my mother-in-law a few weeks ago. My husband lost his mother. And we did not want to get rid of the cards that we got, so we wanted to put them in something special. He asked me to make her something. And here's what I did. I took this metal box that used to hold a little Dremel kit and I turned it into this. And it's a bit of a mixed media project, but I'll show you step by step how we can get this done. The first thing you want to do is make sure that you have a box where you can fit your cards or your trinkets inside of. I ordered 2 different boxes online and they turned out to be too small for the cards. And by the way, you can save cards from any happy occasion. This just happens to be for a sad occasion, but we don't want to throw those cards away. And I'll show you how you can work on an uneven surface like this. I covered the whole surface with chalk paint because there's metal and plastic on here, and the chalk paint will adhere perfectly to the metal and to the plastic, and we'll let this dry. Now the surface of this is very bumpy, and I'm taking a paper bag. And can you see how the surface of this is very uneven? Plus there are ridges in this metal. I'm only working on the one side. Well, I will paint the rest of the box, but I'm going to design this top piece here. So I'm taking the paper bag, I'm going to cut it out, just the size to fit over the top, and I'm going to decoupage this paper bag over the top. This is going to smooth the surface out perfectly, and it's going to be a nice canvas to start our work on. And you might want to think about lunch boxes because it's back to school time and they're selling a lot of lunch boxes pretty cheaply and on sale. And you can do this with a lunch box if it's the right size for you. Once I covered this with decoupage glue, I did wet this paper bag. And you want to turn it face down if it's got any print on it. And I pressed it down. And I used a brayer here because I wanted to make sure all of these edges got in. The paper bag is really rough, so it can take a whole lot of pressure. So I pressed this all down. When you're all done with this part, I normally recommend putting these projects in the oven. This has a plastic handle on it, so it could not go in the oven. I put it outside. It is a hot, sunny day. I put it directly in the sunlight. It dried pretty quickly, but the paper bag does take a little longer to dry. You want to sand these edges off. Now make sure you clear off any dust that might have formed there. And I'm going to add gesso with a little bit of water together just to make it a little bit thinner, and it's going to look a bit like a wash. And I'm going to cover this whole surface. And if you're wondering why I chalk painted underneath this paper when I was going to decoupage it anyway, it's because the chalk paint will also help the decoupage medium adhere to this metal. So you don't want to skip that step. And since I can't put this in the oven, I will be helping this dry along the way, so I'll be using my heat gun. I'm making sure to keep my heat gun moving a lot so I don't melt anything. To use this next medium, you're going to have to use this matte fixative spray over top of it so that you can decoupage. It's got to be a fixative. And these are called Gelatos, which I am just loving. And I will show you how I'm using these today. There are several ways to use these Gelatos. I'm really loving these things. But I wanted to match them or have them complement the napkins that I'm using today. So I selected a few different colors. And this is going to look very sloppy while I'm doing it. It's not going to look attractive at all, but I'll show you the outcome when I'm done. Now you may want to experiment with these before you work on a project, so you can get a pad of watercolor paper, just regular paper. Scribble some lines all over with different colors. You wet your finger and you go all over the surface. If you've got too much color, You can take a wet nap, I just showed you a container there, and you can go over the whole surface and blot it, or you can wipe away color and start over again, and it gives a really pretty watery finish, and you can make the colors more intense or you can make them a bit more muted. And I'm going to dry this, although it dries very quickly. Then I'm going to take it outside and spray the matte finish over it. Excuse me, I mean the matte fixative. And you do have to spray this outside, but it does dry quickly. While that's drying, I'm going to take a paintbrush and wet it with water and go around the images that I want from my napkin. I'm going to wet the edges around the images and tear those images out. I don't want to cut these, I just want to tear them out. And I'm going to do this on a couple of different napkins with a few images until I have all of the pieces that I want for my project. By the way, you want to make sure you have not yet separated your napkins. When you're all done tearing out your images, then you want to separate your napkins, do a dry run and place them over the area where you think they'll look nice before you apply them. And I took this plastic page protector and I put the large image face down over it. I put a little piece of decoupage glue on there, and then I flipped the image over, and this large piece of page protector allowed me to smooth the whole napkin down. You can also use some saran wrap to go around and blot those areas down. And same goes for these smaller images. You just want to make sure you keep that page protector clean. Don't put it back down when you've got decoupage glue on it because it will pull your work up. But it is a big help in smoothing all of your images down. And now I'm going to dry it again using my heat gun. If you have any napkins that overlap, just go on around the edges and sand those away. Now I'm taking the gelato, one of the colors, and I'm going to go around some of the images and outline them, and it's one of the colors that I used in the background, so the colors will blend and this will pull it all together. And I'm going to go around the whole piece and do this in different areas around the butterflies. And I'm going to dry it. And once it's dry, I'm also going to add a little more color around the edges, again, to make this have a more cohesive look, like it will all blend in together. I dried it again. Now, one mistake that I made was I sprayed the fixative now, one coat, which you do need to do, but I used this pen that for some reason on my clothes never comes out, so I assumed it was permanent and waterproof, yet when I used it on here, as you'll see later, and I went to apply decoupage glue over the top of this, it smeared. So I had to do this part over again with a black marker, a fine tip. I used a very fine tip black Sharpie to make these flowers pop. Once the marker dried, it faded also. So I tried to add a little bit of gesso and water, and this is where I smeared the colors. So I decided to just let that dry. I would come back to it, and I used archival ink, which is waterproof, to stamp some script over the top of my decoupage. And now I went back over all of the flowers and I started to outline all of these petals and the insides and some of the fine lines on the inside here. Now I made a copy of the words "Always in Our Heart" on my inkjet printer. I always suggest you use a laser printer at the copy center, but this is such a small amount. I just used regular paper. I tore out the words and I pressed the papers into the permanent ink. I had to wash away a little bit of that permanent ink because it covered the words a little too much. And I wanted to coat the ends so that it had a nice aged finish on it. And I decoupaged these over the surface of my project. Once the front of the box dried, I added 3 different colors of gelatos and I wet a paintbrush. And this is one of the other things that I love about gelatos. Look at this beautiful watery color and finish. My mother-in-law loved the beach, so I wanted to make sure that I honored her a little bit more by using these colors all around the box. And when I was done with this whole box, you do need to apply the fixative one more time before you add any top coat. Once the fixative dried, I added the top coat over the whole project to protect it. And once again, guys, I hope you like this project. Feel free to comment, ask me any questions you'd like. By the way, I did add some glitter using some spray adhesive. I added just a smattering of glitter along with a little bit of some glass beads. And that was our project for this week. Thank you so much for subscribing. Upcycle with Decoupage is also on Facebook. If you go over and like and follow the page, you'll be notified every week when I put a new video out. Please look at the links below to see my website where you can purchase all of these products. And I will see you guys next week with another video. Thanks again, guys. Bye-bye.